Hey guys, so I'm going to go over a couple of Stihl chainsaws today. Really I want to focus on this ms261C, and I have a ms211, a 170, a little electric saw. I've owned a 251C, 291, 180, sorry, somebody's pulling up, these dogs going nuts here. But I'm really impressed with this 261. It's the best saw I've ever owned. Now, I'm not a professional woodcutter or anything like that, but obviously I do live in the mountains and cut a lot of wood, so I'm going to fire each one of these saws up. Obviously electric one, you just pull the trigger and go, but I'm going to fire these other saws up and show you kind of the difference with this. Now, I believe it's the 251, the newer 251 and Wood Boss. The 261 and 271 has the IntelliCarb on it, and that's really huge if you live at elevation like I do. These saws come jetted for whatever dealer they send them to. That's always going to be a lower elevation. So if you are a mountain person, if that's where you live, that's where you're cutting wood, that IntelliCarb is a huge thing. I'm going to show you that. To start with this little 170, I have a 180. I like the 180 a lot better. This 170, I'll fire it up really quick, and none of these saws have been fired up in 2 or 3 days. So, oh, and for parameter's sake here, I use VP gas with no ethanol pre-mixed. Same in all of my saws. So, you ready? That's the 170. 180 I have fires up usually in only 3 pulls. So I like the 180 a lot better. I've had 2 of the 170s. Well, my dad had one, and I have one. I have a 180, and I'm sorry I don't have that here. I have it in one of my rigs. I like that saw. Fires up a lot quicker than the 170. Power's about the same, but fairly close anyways. But the way it fires up, I really like that 180. I'm going to show you this 211. Quite the piece of shit, if you ask me. This saw's a week old. I hate this saw. Don't buy this saw. ms211. Every time, same thing. Rather than having a 15-minute long video, I'm not going to do this. It will eventually fire. I got to sit here and let it run like this for at least 3 minutes, because it'll just do that. Let it run for about 3 minutes like that, idling. And eventually I can start gassing it. That's the ms211, worst saw I've ever owned. Now once it's warmed up, it doesn't do that. But you let it sit, you run it, you let it sit for 15 minutes, come back to it, and it's about halfway there already. So it's still kind of just really cold-blooded. Maybe I got a bad one, I don't know. I've cleaned it, gone through it. Here's a good one. The 261. That's got a compression on it, which I think is really cool. Push that in. Couple things you'll notice about that. First of all, at first pull or at first fire on it, it doesn't shut down. It just keeps running, which is really cool. And that once it fires, that compression knob comes back up. So first of all, it's easy to pull. and that compression comes back up, and she just keeps running. Automatically sets herself on run. Great saw. Now I have the light bar on this, which I really like. It's a 20-inch. This saw is pretty powerful. I feel like, you know, up here, of course, I'm only doing pine trees. I don't have oaks and stuff like that here, any hardwoods or anything. So it's all ponderosa, lodgepole, fir trees, spruce trees. But you know, this saw's got a lot of power enough. I could put a 25-inch bar on here and get away with it all day long, cutting pines, of course. Maybe not the case if you're cutting hardwoods, but tons of power. I mean, she runs really good into any tree. I was into one a couple days ago where I was upside down coming at it a little bit, and just because of the position I was in, the particular tree, and you know, just full power coming into it, and wasn't cutting out. Just really great saw. Just runs just like that right now, and you're ready to start cutting. Fairly lightweight. The reason I got that 211, it was one of the reasons I wanted. It's probably the most powerful head you can get at under 10 pounds. I think it came in at like 10.1, something like that. But my intention was to put the light bar on that. For me, if I'm working all day long in the woods, you know, I'm 54, I don't want to be lugging around a big ass saw. I want something I can fell any tree out here. Ponderosa started to get a little big, and then be able to buck it up with the same saw, because I'm out doing it remotely. So that was kind of the idea behind the 211, but that's a big no-go. Once you start cutting with that thing, I'd rather cut any tree, doesn't matter what it is, with that little 170 before I'd use that 211. Forget about the hard starting problem. It just doesn't cut very well. It's constantly cutting out. Now this has that IntelliCarb in it, and that's why it's runs so great. You get up to elevation like this, and it automatically sets your air mixture and just runs like a top. Great saw. I think it comes in around 12 pounds, so it's nothing too crazy, but with that light bar, you know, it makes it a little bit. This I feel like with this saw, the other day I was using it and dropped a couple of trees and bucking with it. It wasn't too crazy. Nothing too heavy to be working with, so not something I can obviously only hold with one hand, but great little saw. 291. You know, the 291 didn't have the compression on it. It might now, the newer one, I'm not sure, but that was an okay saw. That was pretty good. She was always a little cold-blooded. Nothing like that 211. I don't know, like I said, that might be an oddball. I might have got a bad one here or something, but I've gone through it, nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with the carb. New spark plug. And that was like that, brand new, off the shelf, and just no matter what I do, it just keeps running like that. So I'd say a no-go on that one. Little 180 is great. 291 was pretty good, little cold-blooded, and it takes a second to get her going, but that 261 is an awesome saw for a person who lives in the mountains, working with pine trees mainly. Nothing too heavy, plenty of power to get through anything. You got to bust into a ponderosa that's more than 20 inches. Of course, you can put a 25-inch bar on it, or you can just bore cut around into it. But awesome saw. Highly suggest that one. If you have any questions, comments, whatever, put them down below. I'm certainly no expert, but I'm just talking from a homeowner perspective who's living at elevation, cutting mostly pines. Really love that saw. So my go-to saws are definitely that 261 and a little 180, and a little electric guy for whatever I need, bucking, lemon stuff here and there. Put it on my dirt bike. I have a little mount for it. Does pretty good. Have a good one. Safe cutting.